meeting of the Southampton Town Zoning Board of Appeals. This meeting is being held via video conferencing pursuant to Chapter 1 of the laws of 2022. And until further notice, all of the board's meetings will be held remotely. So we ask the public to continually check the town's website for updates and new information. There are also options on the website for public comments and to pre-register to speak on public hearings. So please consider that for all future meetings. If you wish to view tonight's live meeting only, please do not join the Zoom meeting and instead go to the town's website. If you wish to be heard during a meeting but did not pre-register, please go to the town's meeting portal, choose the meeting group from the drop-down on the left, and you will find the information required to join the Zoom meeting. With that, I'd ask that you join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We will be starting this meeting with the public hearings. We have applicants and members of the public standing by via Zoom webinar, which is being moderated by CTV. Charles Certain will mute the speakers until it is their time to give testimony before the board. Please be patient. If you find that you are having difficulties accessing the hearings, please visit the town clerk's meeting portal and click on the instructions link. Also, there are a few public hearings that will not be heard, meaning that they will be adjourned tonight. So please listen to hear when they will be rescheduled for. A reminder that applicants, agents, and members of the public speaking, other than attorneys, will be sworn in, will state their address for the record, and will offer their testimony as it relates to the application before the board. Board members who must recuse themselves from any application will state so on the record and will be removed from the meeting until the end of the hearing. Unless otherwise stated at the end of each hearing, all of these applications will remain open for written comments for all purposes until March 4th. Those comments can be addressed to the board secretary Candace and sent via email, mail, and/or dropped off at Town Hall. With that, I'd ask for a motion that we approve the minutes of our last meeting.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second. Come on.
Okay, Mr. Tudhill.
Aye.
Bob, you the second? I wasn't sure.
I did the second, yeah.
You did the second, okay. Mr. Macedonia.
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
I was not present at the meeting, so I'm sorry, I'm going to abstain from voting.
Okay, Ms. Kern.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Minutes are approved. And next, I guess we will go on to adjournments.
Okay, as far as the agenda is concerned, item 6 on the agenda is Danielle Bella, 280 Deerfield Road, Watermill, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-101-3-53.4. I will move that we're going to re-advertise this application for our 3/17 meeting.
Okay, it's being re-advertised. We don't have to vote on it.
Okay, item 8 on the agenda, Nicholas and Lois Kodaris, 30 Laurel Lane in Sag Harbor, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-26-1-86. I'll move that we adjourn that to our 3/17 meeting also.
Second.
Mr. Tudhill.
Aye.
Ms. Kern.
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Mr. Macedonia.
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
Item 12 on the agenda, East Quogue, 535 Realty Inc., 535 Montauk Highway in East Quogue, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-341-1-52. Again, we're going to adjourn this to our 3/17 meeting.
Second.
Mr. Tudhill.
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Ms. Kern.
Aye.
Mr. Macedonia.
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
And then on the decision calendar, PJT Realty Management LLC, I'll move to reopen this to accept written submissions.
second,
Mr. Tuthill,
All right,
Mr. Daly,
Aye.
Mr. Kern,
aye,
Mr. Macedonia,
aye.
chair votes aye. Reopen.
Okay, now I'm gonna move to close this for a determination later this evening.
Second.
All in favor?
aye,
Aye. Opposed?
Okay, 808 Mecox Road LLC. I'll move to reopen this to accept written submissions.
second,
Mr. Tuthill,
All right,
Ms. Kern,
aye,
Mr. Daly,
Aye.
Mr. Macedonia,
aye.
chair votes aye. Reopen.
I'll move to close this for determination later this evening.
second,
Second.
All in favor?
aye,
Aye. Opposed?
Okay. And then Gwendolyn Brewer will be put over to our March 3rd meeting. 720 North Sea Road LLC. I'll move to reopen this to accept written submissions.
Okay, hold on. Let's do Brewer first. Okay, do we have a second on the motion on Brewer to
Second.
return to March 3rd? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
aye,
Aye. Opposed?
Okay, and then the 720 North Sea Road LLC. I'll move to reopen to accept written submissions.
Second.
Mr. Tuthill,
Aye.
Mr. Daly,
Aye.
Ms. Kern,
aye,
Mr. Macedonia,
Aye.
chair votes aye. Reopen.
Now I'll move to close 720 North Sea Road LLC for determination later this evening.
Second.
All in favor?
aye,
Aye. Opposed?
Okay, now the following determinations will be put over to our March 3rd meeting. Alice Greenwald, Grant Werner, RCF Properties LLC, 95 Inlet Road West, 85 Eastway LLC, Kenneth Seif and Nicole Seif. And that's that for the March 3rd meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Okay, the next two determinations, Nice Slick Real Estate Holdings Development Corp. and Scott Schlachter. I'll move to put that over to our March 17th meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
aye,
Opposed?
Aye.
All right, that's that. We'll go to the beginning of the agenda. First item on the agenda is Blessing Fields LLC, 163 West Montauk Highway in Hampton Bays, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-22-1-12. Applicant requests relief from the following provisions of the town code. One for a proposed office building, 330-115C, continuance for a minimum side yard setback of 10 feet, where 10.96 feet is existing. 330-84D, pyramid height for a pyramid encroachment of 4,755 cubic feet on the west side of the property. And 2, for a proposed general trade building. 330-115D1 for minimum side yard setback of 10 feet, where 11.84 feet is required. And 330-D pyramid height for a pyramid encroachment of 14,107 cubic feet, and any other relief necessary.
Board has jurisdiction.
Evening, Wayne.
Good evening, board members. Wayne Bruin, O'Shea, Marcinson and Bruin on behalf of Blessing Fields LLC, the applicant on this application as indicated in the notice. I believe our clients are online and my associate John as well. As the notice indicates, we are seeking relief for the construction of 2 new buildings on a commercially zoned piece of property in the highway business zone. The subject property is a rectangular plot of land that stretches between Montauk Highway and Long Island Railroad. On the south, it's approximately 75 feet in width with a depth of 675 feet. It abuts the Riverhead Building Supply property, which is to the west, and to the east is the Quag Sinclair property on the east, and directly opposite on Montauk Highway is the Macy's Shopping Center. The parcel contains 49,554 square feet. It is currently improved with a commercial use. Former model home on the front of the building, front of the site. That building takes up a lot of the frontage, 10 feet from the west, and there's virtually, I forget the setback exactly on the east, but it only allows a driveway or access. And I recall many years ago when this was reviewed by the planning board for the swimming pool use that was there, they had a lot of problems with the access, the narrowness of the access on the east that was permitted to squeeze by that building. There's also a garage, currently a garage that's used in connection with the special trade contractor that's there. The applicant has been before the planning board on pre-submission site plan. As you can see the survey here. And they propose to demolish the two existing buildings. And it was the goal of the planning board to get as much widest point of access onto Montauk Highway on the east. If you just, there you go. You can see the new proposed driveway on the east will be the standard 24 feet in width, which the planning board finds is the minimum for two-way access. And that was an important goal for the planning board. What that does, however, it caused us on the proposed buildings to make the building narrow and also shift it as far to the west as possible. The minimum distance under customary highway business is recognized by the planning board to be 10. Using the 4/10 rule, we calculated 11.85 feet would be permitted. Nonetheless, we suggested early that the planning board, we meet that zoning, so we wouldn't need that variance. And they told us they were thought that the 10 feet would be appropriate in this case, particular since who our adjoining neighbor is to the west, which is the Riverhead Building Supply, where all these buildings would adjoin a parking lot and a 26,000 square foot, 35-foot high building. And you can see the outline of that building on that survey. You could also see that in the aerial photographs. So what that results in, though, is a very odd thing, and I think this may be one of the first cases that you will see. Oddly, up until 2008, the pyramid law did not apply in the commercial districts, and there was an amendment with really no legislative purpose described, where the code was amended to require only in the highway business zone that buildings in the highway business zone also comply to pyramid, which was customarily only something you would find in the residential zones. Interestingly, the sort of hybrid or transitional zones, office district and Hamlet commercial and Hamlet office, which promote residential looking buildings, pyramid doesn't apply there. But nonetheless, we're stuck with the code the way it is. This was identified during the planning board process that we would need pyramid. This, based on the buildings, the proposed buildings, the front building is to be office associated with the special trade contractors. The back building is for their equipment and shop areas. The site plan, like I indicated, we did have a pre-submission report, and it dates back to July 9th, 2020, that outlines the project and some of the planning issues. The planning board, of course, when they get their formal site plan, will make sure the traffic circulation is appropriate. Again, this is only for a special trade contractor. The access point is directly at the point of the traffic light that leads into the Macy's Shopping Center. So I think traffic movements will be mitigated and handled with that traffic light. We understand, and the planning board indicated here that this is an unlisted action under seeker. And as such, the option of coordinated review is available to this board as well as the planning board. The planning board indicated in their report that if coordinated review was undertaken, that they would specifically likely seek to be lead agency in this action and assist in providing the necessary seeker documents. So I'm here to answer any questions. And there's a lot going on as far as it's a commercial site, many things that are not normally something this board sees, but most importantly, the pyramid. The most impacted building or property is the Riverhead Building Supply. We have not heard from them or any objections. Otherwise, we've not heard anything from Quag Sinclair as well.
Wayne, what kind of business is going in there?
Special trade contractors. Our client is a building builder, and they have a building company and design company. They hope to use this as their base, as well as rent to another special trade contractor.
Okay, thank you.
The other element that the planning board want, which is something they do constantly with planning, is coordinated access. If you go to the rear of the property near the railroad tracks, specifically our client is going to provide a cross-access easement that could be utilized in the future if the town desires a road to follow the railroad, which is a planning goal that they've had in this general location.
So Wayne, I just want to talk to a little bit about the pyramid, the situation with pyramid. So I appreciate the fact that this is something that the town board did some time ago. One can argue the merits of it. It is really not our board's place to do that. But for people who are concerned about about these issues, they certainly can talk to the town board about that. So, but for our purposes, we have pyramid law applying to commercial property that is adjacent to or between really two other commercial properties, being Quag Sinclair Fuel on one side and Riverhead Building Supply on the other side. Another factor from my perspective is that the planning board essentially encouraged you and kind of wanted you to have these buildings to be located where they're located, which is necessitating much of the pyramid relief. So that's a consideration. But the reality is the amount of pyramid relief is extremely high, really high. And the question is, as a board, what we do in addressing pyramid in a situation like this. So, I mean, normally we would be asking for you to reduce pyramid in any way you possibly could. But I understand that this is a commercial property, and so maybe it should be treated a little bit differently because it's a commercial property. But I just want to talk to you about whether there's anything that can be done at this point to reduce the amount of pyramid relief being requested.
So the first thing is, I would say the policy behind the pyramid is to make sure adjoining properties have primarily light and access. I will just point out again, the Riverhead Building Supply building is 20 feet from the property line. It's a building that at its peak is 35 feet in height. We can try to estimate the amount of pyramid relief or how they're non-conforming in this case. Again, the light and access that is not afforded to our property because of that pre-existing pyramid violation, so to speak, is something that I would think would be in consideration. The other point you did make is that, so the design here primarily to make sure there's appropriate access on this narrow lot to allow it to be developed in accordance with the zoning is being generated by the fact that the planning board wants, the width of the access to be 24 feet, whereas currently it's 10 feet. And currently there is a building, and we didn't give you the actual number. There's pyramid encroachment now with that existing building, although it is much smaller. We can go back to our client. The question is, is there something that could be done to the architecture? I think if you look at the elevations, they're pretty straightforward. There's nothing unique. They're basically typical commercial building and block style. You would almost make them non-usable, I would think, but I'll leave that to the architect. And being that this would be adjourned, you have to coordinate. We can ask our client that question.
As proposed, Wayne, they're one story though, right?
No.
Two-story.
The
Office building.
two-story.
It's two-story. Did you indicate
okay.
on the plans what the height of the floors are on the two-story building?
We do have, it's not on the survey, but we do have the actual elevations and plans that are part of the record. I don't know if you have them available to see on the screen.
No.
John, do we have a copy of that? I think John, my associate John, is going to try to share it on his screen.
Okay. But, you know, the planning board is requiring this, requiring the building to be so close to the property line that this.
Well, let's hear from Anthony. Let's hear from Anthony.
Absolutely.
I think he's trying to get back in. Did he get back
is.
in?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's coming.
Wayne, can you take the survey down? Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Sorry about that. I got disconnected there. So the planning board did look at this, but what I would say, a couple of things is, since they are going to recommend coordinated review and then the secret review, you know, as it relates to the pyramid law, what I would say at this point is, yeah, I mean, the property's constrained. We have to have an access width to accommodate trucks. But then the question becomes is, you know, the scale and size of the operation itself and the size of the buildings. And so we'll look at that during the secret review. And then we'll address pyramid as part of that review. If the scale of the project is too big for some reason and the buildings could be smaller, that would possibly address some of the pyramid issues. The other side of it is, when we're dealing with commercial, the pyramid law becomes a little less important from a general standpoint, and we tend to look at it more on a case-by-case basis, because typically when we're dealing with commercial properties and we want to address scaling or massing of the building, we look at architectural features. And Wayne mentioned about the block style building. It's also facing Montauk Highway. So the planning board is going to want to address the architecture, the roof line, the facade treatments, since it is addressing the street, regardless of whether or not it's a commercial building for a special trade contractor. It still has to be designed properly to address the street. So maybe some architectural features that the planning board asked for in the review could address some of these pyramid encroachments.
Okay.
And I'm trying to see. This was actually Jackie's project, so I'm just looking at the reports that the planning board did do the report. But yeah, I mean, most of them were site planning issues. So like I said, with respect to the pyramid law, which is really what this board is addressing, the planning board will look at the architectural style, will look at the scale and intensity of the use. It's a special exception use in the highway business zoning district. So maybe some of these issues relating to pyramid will in fact be addressed, if that helps at all.
Well, the public hearing is being kept open, so I don't know whether the application will remain the same. My guess is it probably will. All I'm wanting to do is to have it addressed on the record, the fact that the pyramid relief is, on the one hand, very large, and on the other hand is necessitated by what the planning board wants in terms of
Yep.
location of the buildings. And I also want to mention that these are commercial buildings. This is not like residential property. So
Correct.
it is apples and oranges, because this is not residential property.
mean to say they're not gonna be staring in the bedrooms over at Riverhead Building Supply?
I don't think so, unless they have bedrooms in that building, which I don't think they do.
Well, that's exactly it, Adam. So I think the point I'm trying to make is for the planning board, we're more concerned about addressing the architecture, how it addresses the streets in our commercial districts. And in that, if the pyramid becomes less, it becomes less. But the planning board didn't make a huge issue of it. We're going to look at the design of this building, and not so much at the sky plane.
Okay. Any other questions or comments about the pyramid issue or any other issue? I also, Wayne, I didn't really go over the setbacks, but I mean the setbacks are extremely modest. So, but it's worth mentioning that setback relief is required, but minimal setback relief. But in any case, just want to ask if there are any other comments from board members about the pyramid in particular, or about this application generally. That questions for Wayne.
Wayne, who else would we have to coordinate with? Who else do you need permits from?
Health Department and Suffolk County Department of Public Works, I think, are the only two agencies who, in my opinion, you would be lucky to get a response from.
Okay.
Yep.
I believe my clients have already submitted an application to the Health Department. Of course, they deem it incomplete until such time as the variance is granted. So.
Okay.
I just think this also refers. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, Anthony.
I was just going to say, I think this gets a general referral to the planning commission also. Not a secret, but it's just a general referral.
Wayne, these are these model, this going to be a model home back there or something?
No,
or
the
what?
current use was a model home, which was then converted to a pool company and then converted to a special trade contractor, all with planning board approval, but they will not be model homes. The front building is solely going to be office space for the contractors, and then the back building, which doesn't have 2 floors, there's an interior mezzanine. So inside, but still the back area is for truck and equipment storage and the like. So for those special trade contractors.
Yeah, and Seagrass is going to have to address lots of issues, particularly traffic issues. Hampton Jitney is, has a stop, right nearby. Macy's is across the street. It's a very busy, intersection. So, but all of that is going to be addressed in Seagrass. But it's worth mentioning that will be addressed.
Wayne, this is the old summer activities building or whatever?
Correct.
Okay.
Keith, that is. Yeah.
That's it.
I'm happy that planning is going to be looking at the scale of the project, and getting back to us.
Okay. Any other questions of Wayne? Is there anyone else who's waiting to be heard this evening in connection with the application of Blessing Fields LLC? This is for property located at 163 West Montauk Highway in Hampton Bays. If you're waiting to be heard on Zoom, this would be the time to let us know by raising your hand.
No hands. Oh, I do have a hand. I do have.
John, are you stopping sharing your screen?
Coming in now.
Thank you.
Hi, Brenda, you are muted, so we can't hear you. We can see you.
Sorry, I was on another page. Okay.
That's okay. No problem.
Sorry about that.
So unless you're an attorney, you just have to swear you in.
Okay.
Okay, so if you can state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Brenda Sinclair. My home address is 16 Gravel Hill Road, Hampton Bays. I'm here.
Yep. Okay, and do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do, yes.
Okay, thank you. If you can tell us your comments.
We own Claude Sinclair, which is right next door. And I was just curious because for decades, there's been a plan to extend Good Ground Road and come out between us and summer activities. And I was just wondering if that is no longer afoot since we're going to build a brand new building over there.
Well, Wayne had mentioned something about that in his
I
presentation.
didn't hear it. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Wayne, can you answer the question about the extension?
Well, while we were in front of the planning board, and if you look on the survey, you will see on the rear portion that the planning department asked us to provide cross-access and a road easement along the rear of the property. I think that is consistent with what the plan is. I'm not exactly sure where the plan is, but I think it was always to run along the back of the railroad. Where it ended up accessing back out to Montauk Highway, I'm not sure.
It was supposed to access between our property and the property next door. I mean, when we bought the property in the 90s, that was something that was always going to be considered. I know they've moved it around, but I was just wondering if that was addressed or not.
So you're saying this property was to be the access to Montauk Highway?
Absolutely.
Okay.
It
No
would
one,
be between the two. I don't quite know how that was working. It's not a very broad piece of property, but I just know that we would have been on a corner if it had gone through, and that was come out right at the light there. So I was just wondering, since they're not going through the diner property, I know that was considered recently. I didn't know if they're going to bring it down further. I was just wondering if it was considered or changed. I don't know.
I don't know what the actual plan is. Like I heard, what you heard too, is there was a few possibilities, including access coming from the diner, but I don't know whether, how.
Well, I know there's a
whether the
lawsuit
town-
now.
Right. So I'm not sure exactly how and where the town will achieve that, but no one has asked our client to consider selling his property to them for access.
Mhm.
But the planning department did insist that we provide coordinated access in the rear, as you see on the survey that's shown there. So,
Okay, I was just curious. To say that was always what I was told initially, and then they moved it around, but I never heard them say that they weren't going to do that. And if they're going to build, I was just wondering how that would work out. I don't have a dog in this fight as far as whether you should build. I was just curious about the access issue.
appreciate that. We'll try to look into that ourselves now that you're alerting us to that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I'm happy to have Ms. Sinclair reach out to me next week. I'll be happy to speak to long range planning to find out where they are with the overall plan for that. So that's not a problem.
Anthony, will you provide us with that information too?
Of course.
Thank you.
Okay, Brendan, you have any other comments?
Nope.
That's it? Okay, well, thank you for your
That's it.
testimony. Great.
Thank you very much.
All right, have a good rest of your night.
Yeah.
Okay, is there anyone else who's going to be heard in connection with the application of Blessing Fields LLC for our property located at 163 West Montauk Highway in Hampton Bays? If you are waiting to be heard, this will be the time to let us know by raising your hand.
No hands.
Okay, all right, so Katie, we need time to coordinate SECRA.
We do. I was thinking, I mean, 30 days. Well, we can't get 30 days to March 17th. It's safe to assume we're only going to hear from planning. So if we heard from everybody else, we could put it on for lead agency resolution on March 17th and then put it off. If we don't get it, put it on for all purposes for April 7th, or we can just put it all off till April 7th. But if we don't do lead agency, Anthony, the planning board really can't be acting, right? For SECRA?
We don't have a pending application, so it would need to be coordinated for us to take the lead agency.
Okay, so maybe let's put it on just for a lead agency resolution for 317, if we've heard from everybody. And if we haven't, then we put it on for all purposes for April 7th. Does that sound right, Wayne, or what do you think?
Yes, I think that's right. I think you're correct, is assuming you get that request shortly. I'm sure the planning board and Anthony will coordinate that with the planning board, but I'm sure we will hear from the other two agencies at all.
Yeah.
So,
And you already gave us the EAF. Do we have a couple extra copies of the application, Wayne?
We can provide you with whatever you need, and further we'll reach out to Anthony to see if there's anything they need, anything else that the planning board identified a few things in the report, and we may look to provide that for them as well. So.
Okay, so maybe if you guys, as soon as you can, just drop off maybe 3 or 4 more copies of the application, and then we can just put them all in the mail.
Okay, great.
All right, so that would be my recommendation. Put it on only for lead agency resolution 317, no testimony, and then put it on for all purposes for 4-7.
Okay, so I'll make that motion, 317 secret resolution on this application, and the public hearing will be continued. I would move that the public hearing will be continued for all purposes until our April 7th meeting.
Second.
Mr. Tudhill,
Aye.
Mr. Daly,
Aye.
Ms. Kern,
Aye.
Mr. Macedonio,
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Thank you for your testimony this evening,
Thank you.
and have a good rest of your night.
Okay, item 2 on the agenda is Timothy Shadden and Marinas Manulas, 85 Waters Edge Road, North Sea, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-62-1-3.1. Applicant requests relief from the following provisions of the town code. 1, for a proposed 40.6 by 18 in-ground pool on a non-conforming lot. 330-11 residential districts table of dimensional regulations for an accessory side yard setback of 10.4 feet where 20 feet is required. And 2, 330-76D placement of accessory building structures and uses in all districts. And 330-83C yards to allow the proposed swimming pool to be located within the required minimum side yard for the principal dwelling, and 2, for a proposed garage/pool house. 330-11 for an accessory side yard setback of 12 feet where 20 feet is required, and any other relief necessary.
Board has jurisdiction.
Evening, Brian.
Good evening, members of the board. Brian Locascio with the Adam Miller Group, attorney for the applicant. We'll go ahead and pull up a survey. As stated, we're here for 85 Waters Edge. The lot is a 32,692 square foot lot in the R40 zoning district. The property fronts Fish Cove. It is impacted by wetlands on the western shoreline, as well as a 20-foot wide drainage easement on the southern portion of the property. It's currently improved with a single family residence. The applicant is proposing a proposed in-ground swimming pool, as well as a proposed garage / pool house. This application has already been before the conservation board, has their approval with a conservation board of wetlands permit. As a part of that application, a lot of the current impervious improvements were removed from this condition. We greatly improved the drainage and stormwater runoff with proposed dry wells, as well as shored up the buffer with a proposed conservation buffer, as well as a re-veg planting plan. So this certainly was a positive environmental impact, as well as the removal of the existing septic system and a proposal of a new IA septic system off the southeast corner of the house. These conditions of the property, the wetlands, the location of the new proposed IA system, the grading of the property yielded the only real allowable building envelope in the northeast corner, or place where these structures can be situated. We do have a letter of support from the neighbor to the north. This application was actually originally filed with you guys in October of 2011, but at that time there was a determination, or at least a miscommunication, that this did not need relief due to 330-83K, where the conservation board has the authority to reduce setbacks to 10 feet, but was ultimately determined on a re-review that only applies to principal dwellings. So in any event, we're back here before you. I can show you an aerial image as well. You can kind of see the property where it abuts. It's a very narrow strip of land that we actually currently, sorry, one second, have a driveway over their property, which we are removing. But if you can see, it's a very narrow strip of land where this is proposed. So it's not really any usable portion of the neighbor's property that will be impacted by the location of this pool or garage. It's a modest sized home due to the location of the wetlands. It wasn't very feasible to expand the house or to get additional storage and a place for the car. A garage is only the only real way to accomplish that. And we tried to situate these structures as far as we can from the wetlands. Yeah, it's kind of it. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
Well, I just want to mention that, you know, the reason for the circumstance here is wetlands.
Yep.
That's what it is. You have very little limited options here. So,
Yep.
so that the property is constrained by wetlands. And so, you know, I don't believe that putting the pool in a rear yard is a possibility. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think it's possible.
It's not with the location of the road and the drainage to the south, where we had to situate the septic system. There really was no other location for the swimming pool.
Yeah. Okay. So the location being in the side yard, you know, that's the rationale for it. I also appreciate your comments about the impact on the neighbor being not that much, although we'll see if neighbors here. I'm presuming you haven't heard
Of course.
from any neighbors.
I have only heard from that neighbor who did issue a letter in support. It was filed with our application last year. I don't know if that was ever resubmitted, but I'm glad to re-provide that. But we do have a letter. They were in support of the application. This did go before public hearing for the conservation board. We had no opposition to that avenue as well when we went before them. So.
Okay. And then the other relief is, you know, the setback relief. So 20 feet to 10.4, and looks like the proposed garage accessory pool house side yard 20 feet to 12 feet.
Yep.
So again, you know, if the neighbors are going to express concerns, we'll listen to what they have to say. But this property is severely constrained, and that's the reason you're here.
Yep.
The size of the pool's not constrained though, is it?
It is not. It could be smaller.
Yeah.
It could be, but again, this was already, you know, gone before and approved by conservation, and you know, we situated it, you know, as far as we can from the wetland to meet all the required setbacks, and again, the neighbor, you know, had no opposition to this size or location of this pool.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll see if they're besides Keith.
The neighbor's not granting the variances, we are.
Appreciate that.
So you just have to be able to.
I hope you do.
Well, so you just have to be able to count to 4, and there are 2 board members who aren't here this evening, who I'm sure are going to listen to the public hearing. So I'm not sure if there are any comments amongst those of board members who are here tonight about the size of the pool. Whether you have any concerns about it?
I have no concerns about it.
Okay.
Not really.
Yeah, I was there today and looking at this. So, Brian, the neighbor to the north, so the driveway that comes off of Doris Lane, that is actually not on this subject property. Is that right? The beginning of that driveway?
Correct. Yeah, we currently have an easement over that property, so we've been in a way using this property, but that driveway is to be removed.
I
We
see
will have
that on here that is to be removed. So that you'll be giving that easement up. Is that what it is?
Correct. Yep. And we'll have a driveway off of Water's Edge.
And then the owner of that property, which you currently have an easement, or the applicant currently has an easement, have they written in support of this?
Yes,
Is
they have.
The one to
they
the
have.
north?
I have that letter. I mean, I can show it on the screen. I don't know if it's helpful to see right now, but I have that. I could gladly submit it for the record for the file.
If you could, that would be great.
Yeah,
Because when I
happy to do
was
that.
there today, I was looking at the place of that pool, and you know, it's not too far away from that house there. And if that owner does not object to it, that's good to know.
And with the way their house lines up, they're actually significantly closer to Fish Cove. With the shape, it's a unique shape of this lot to the north. It's a very narrow strip of land where the driveway currently goes, so it's not in close proximity to the house, but.
Okay. Thanks.
Yep. Thank you.
Brian, is there vegetative screening on that property line?
To To my knowledge, there is not, because it's currently a driveway through there, but I'm sure that's something we can certainly propose, and I'm sure the applicant would be willing to do that.
Michael, did you happen to see any when you were there?
There are areas that are screened. I mean, it's primarily from the, but I did not notice any vegetative screening that would be between the neighbor to the north and the proposed pool.
It looks like there's some hedging there now, but
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know how that's
Not
all gonna.
consistent. Yeah, it's not consistent, yeah.
Yeah, it's more to the driveway to the backyard than it
Yep.
is for neighbors. So, yeah, perhaps that should be considered. But
And I think it's a good idea to have screening.
Yeah, I don't think that's in any means unreasonable. I think it would be as much to our benefit as well, since it's, in close proximity to Doris Lane. So I will certainly bring that back to the applicants, and I'm happy to offer that.
okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions to members of the board or Katie? I think Anthony is still here.
I had a question. Brian, one of the comments from the building department was talking about the, providing a single and separate search. And I'm just wondering if that would even help you with your setbacks.
That may actually yield us to, I don't have a single and separate, and I don't have it in time. I could certainly pull that.
Okay. And then there's also a comment that we need a elevation and pyramid for the pool house, so the garage.
That was provided, and we did not pierce the pyramid plane. And then there's also a note about rear yard lot coverage. The surveyor has not yet provided that, but that is in motion and will be provided. And if we are over, of course, I'll have to address that, but I don't believe we will be.
Great.
Okay. Is there anyone from the public who's waiting to be heard this evening in connection with the application of Shannon and Manaluz? This is for property located at 85 Waters Edge Road in North Sea. If you're waiting to be heard on Zoom, this would be the time to let us know by raising your hand.
No hands.
Okay. If not, unless there's anything else, Mike, it is yours.
Okay, so Katie, help me. What are we going to do here? We are, what else do we need to receive from you, Mr. Patio?
I understand it as a survey showing proposed screening along the northern edge of the pool, as well as the rear yard lot coverage.
Okay, as well as the year, right,
Rear.
What you said.
Yeah.
And,
Rear yard.
that weird lot coverage, yeah. And if you would also submit that letter of support.
Yes, a letter in support as well, yes. Yep.
So based on that, I believe we will close this public hearing, leave it open for written submissions until March 3rd with March 4th. Okay. With a decision on March 17th, as long as everything's in. All right.
Great.
All right, so you have a second. I'm sorry.
Yes, nobody wants to do that.
Oh, second.
Okay, all right, Mr. Daly,
Aye.
Ms. Kern,
Hi.
Tuthill,
Aye.
Mr. Macedonio,
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Thanks so much, Brian. Have a good rest of your night.
You as well. Thank you very much.
Yeah, take care.
Item 3 on the agenda is Sarah Burr, 59 Hillover Lane in Noyak, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-16-1-46. Applicant requests relief from the following provisions of the Town Code 330-83A4 yards to allow a proposed deck higher than 1 foot above ground level to be located in the required front yard on a non-conforming lot and any other relief necessary.
Board has jurisdiction.
Hi, Maxine. We can see you, but we can't hear you. You're muted.
Okay, great. Okay, now?
No, I can hear you now. Okay,
Okay.
very
great.
good. So unless you're an attorney, I just have to swear you in. Also, I know Sarah's on as well. If she wants to speak, I can swear her in also.
Okay.
If you can just state your name and address.
Okay, I'm Maxine Liao. I'm the architect for the project. My address is 12 Jesse Halsey Lane, Sag Harbor.
And do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Okay. Sarah, I can also swear you in if you'd like to say a few words. It's up to you.
Okay.
Okay, if you just state your name and address.
Sarah Burr, 59 Hillover Lane, Sag Harbor, New York.
And do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Okay, Maxine, if you can tell us about the application.
Okay, great. Well, you have a lot of information and the plans, I assume. And okay, so what I would like to add to what we've already given you is that the main reason to request this variance is that the existing covered porch doesn't function well as a porch, and it's pretty much unusable as it is. The existing roof, excuse me, is so low that the front screen door can only open halfway at a 45-degree angle. And the porch is so narrow, right now it's 3 foot 7 inches wide, that it's not even comfortable to use for a seat. So the concept of the design is to remove the existing roof over the porch and create a higher open structure so that the door can open fully. And also the open structure will allow more light into the interior of the house. The proposal is to make the porch more usable by extending it 3 foot 8 inches toward the road. And the height of it is 2 foot 1. And if you grant this, what we feel is a modest request, not only will it make the porch more usable, but we feel it will enhance the look of the house to make it a little more interesting. So if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. And we appreciate your consideration.
Only question I have is if you've heard from any of the neighbors.
Oh, no, we sent them, the required mailings and 5 out of 6 people signed the green cards. So, and I submitted them to the building department today, and I emailed them to Candace earlier also.
Okay,
Nobody
I
has-
want to see if we got a response. Anyway, Sarah, looks like you wanted to say something.
No, Sarah, you heard?
I got a phone call from a neighbor, John Corain, who was one of the people who was noticed, who called me from Florida today just to say that he had no objection and he was sure that it would be beautiful. Those are
great.
words.
Okay. All right. Well, I don't see how this is going to have an impact on the neighbors really. So I have no problem with the application, but we'll see if there's anybody here. Anyway, before I do that, any other questions of Maxine, members of the board, or of Sarah?
No, I have
No,
no
I
problem.
don't have a problem. I have no problem with the application, functional front porch is a common amenity in the town of Southampton. And, no problem with this application.
Great.
I
Okay.
agree.
Agreed.
Okay. All right. Is there anyone? I'm sorry.
There are just a couple building department notes about fences, so make sure all of your fences comply.
Right. And that's what happened. That will be addressed.
I will
Okay.
do that.
Okay, very good. Okay, all right. In the meantime, is there anyone from the public who's waiting to be heard on Zoom this evening in connection with the application of Burr? This is for property located at 59 Hillover Lane in Sag Harbor. If this would be the time, if you would like to be heard, this would be the time to let us know by raising your hand.
No hands.
Okay. If not, Bob, this one's yours.
Hey, I have no problem with it, so.
Okay, so what I need you to do is I need you to make a motion to close except for
Make a
written
motion.
submissions.
And
The deadline for written submissions is going to be March 4th.
March 4th.
March 4th for written subs,
Time for
is what we're
submissions.
doing for all our applications. And then March 17th for a decision.
I make that motion.
Okay,
Second.
very good. Do we have a second?
Second,
Okay, Mr. Macedonia,
Aye.
Mr. Daly,
Aye.
Ms. Kern,
Aye.
Mr. Tudhill.
aye.
Chair votes aye. Thank you both for your comments this evening. Have a good rest of your night.
Wonderful. Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Take care.
Okay, item 4 on the agenda is Farrell, CIT Building GO LLC, 851 Halsey Lane in Bridgehampton, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-105-1-1.26. Applicant requests relief from Town Code 330-103 corner clearance to allow a privet hedge to remain in the current location, to wit, in the southwest corner of a non-conforming lot, and any other relief necessary.
Board has jurisdiction.
Good evening, Rennie.
Good evening. For the applicant, David Gilmartin, Greenberg, Trorig, Bridgehampton, New York. Can I share my screen, please?
Sure.
Okay. During the process of looking for a building permit for this property, it was discovered that a 35-plus-year-old hedge violated the corner clearance restriction contained in the code. At that time, we were able to get the building permit with the condition that we either bring the hedge into conformance or we get a variance from this board. So obviously, we're here tonight requesting that variance, and we'd like the hedge to remain. I've marked up a survey, and I want to show the edge of the pavement is this black line here, and the hedge is depicted in green as it comes across. I have noticed that there have been, I think, 2 separate zoning board of appeals applications on this property. There are several building permits, and this situation hasn't been discovered before. This part of the code was enacted in '72, and all of those applications occurred after 1972. So we're looking for that. We're looking for that variance. It appears that at the original installation of this hedge, and if you follow that green line, that they did set it back from the pavement so as not to interfere with the sight line, which is what the reason why the corner clearance section is in the code. I scaled that out at its closest. The hedge is 17 feet from the pavement. I'll show you a picture also, which I think is pretty descriptive. Here is a photograph, an aerial of the intersection. You see the hedge here. Here's the pavement. There is no interference with sight line. There are no safety issues here. I think it's shown. I have photographs of it. I was able to get a car in a couple of these, and that's why I have them. This is looking east on the opposite side of the intersection. The house is here. We see how wide open this intersection is. This is another shot looking southeast. I was able to get a car there. Here's the line where cars heading south stop. You can see that there's no interference from the hedge there. This is a shot looking directly south. Hedges here, again, wide open. And finally, we are looking west here. You see it's a beautiful, tall, mature hedge. This is approximately 17 feet to the hedge, and then when I tried to step it off, it looked like it was about 10 feet to that stop line. So in balancing and looking at the balancing test, the benefit here is clear. I have an estimate here from Butch Payne to move the hedge, and that's $51,000. Part of the complication of that is there are underground utilities that would have to be relocated with this hedge. We were also in touch with the highway superintendent to get his opinion, which we got in a email to Brian DeSessa, who's a part of the Farrell Building Company, and they had no issues except to, as you can see here, only to add a stop at line under the eastbound stop sign. which we would volunteer and agree to a condition to put there. Mr. McCardle added some pictures, which I think are consistent with mine. Unfortunately, when I put this in a PDF, some of them I couldn't get to go straight, so they're going to be sideways on you. But as we look, this is a shot looking west, and again, you see the width. The hedge isn't even in there. Wide open intersection here. It's a very similar shot there. This is from the same spot. You see a car coming, but they're similar to the photos that I took. And again, that looks like to be the same one as the first one, but they were all attached to the email. And I wanted to give you a full rendition of what the Mr. McCardle's email said. It's a different case than I think you guys are used to seeing. This is more about a safety issue than a setback or an impact issue. But if we look at the balancing test, clearly there's a benefit. The expense, the use of the hedge as a privacy hedge, and then finally it serves somewhat as a safety for either pets or children that may be on the property that aren't going to run out on the street. If you look up and down that street, it's characterized by hedges, and I think most of the Hamptons have hedges in their front yard, and certainly a lot of the properties in Bridgehampton do. These hedges have existed for 35 years. We cannot achieve keeping them where they are, but through a variance from this section of the code. I would argue that the variance is not substantial. You know, the totality of the circumstances are that's the stop lines in the street have got to be more than 27 feet at its closest to this particular hedge. So there are no line of sight issues. These are hedges, again, they've existed for 35 years, so there's no impact to the environment. And while the hardship may be self-created, that does not necessitate a denial of the variance has been held by many of the courts in this state. So I can answer any questions, but we'd respectfully ask that you grant the variance.
No problem before, no problem now. Maybe we should just condition it that you maintain the hedge.
Fair enough, I agree. You know, I can't imagine it growing out that far, but I think that's a fair,
I know, but
it's a fair condition. Yeah.
And this is just, you know, a safety issue where, you know, we have comments from the highway superintendent. You know, if the highway and superintendent, on the other hand, raise concerns, then we'd have concerns. So just for what it's worth, I mean, we don't hear that. We rarely have corner clearance applications that are just corner clearance, usually part of applications for other types of relief, and that just happens to be brought up. But you know, if the highway superintendent is satisfied that this is not a safety issue, I'm okay with it.
It's been there 35 years.
I've only run into one issue, and that was where it was a private road and it was very narrow. I think it was 10 feet wide, and one of the people on the corner had a fairly high hedgerow that did interfere with the line of sight, and that's the only time that I've ever run into it in doing this. And this is clearly not that situation.
Yeah, I mean, the photographs make pretty clear that the visibility is not an issue as far as I can tell.
I live nearby and it is not an issue. It has never been an issue for 35 years, so I have no problem.
Okay. Okay.
Hey, there was no indication from Mr. McCardle of any accidents or no reports of problems, right?
No, we actually did foil that from the police, and there were no records of any accidents there.
That would be my only concern, that there's not an issue then.
Mm-mm. There never used to be a stop sign there, if you can imagine. So that's like.
Yeah, the ones on Mecox, you mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
There's now a 3-way stop there, and that.
Yeah, I know.
does
And
help.
that used to just be an open, like, you know, cross section. So.
Yeah. And that's what I was going to ask. Do we actually have something from the highway department in our package that addresses this?
No,
Or-
I,
Need a copy of that.
this is something that we have today that I will submit as part of the package, but we just received it today. He finally got there this
Yeah.
afternoon.
Got it. Okay, good. So you'll submit that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this has become kind of a point of interest for me, you know, because we have a situation that is not maybe this situation, but, you know, Lumber Lane, where Lumber Lane meets Scuttle Hole Road. There's been a lot of accidents in that intersection, including some friends of mine. And I went and looked at it, and it's like the stop sign gets put so far back from actually where the road is that it creates a hesitancy. But I take this road all the time. It's my way to the beach. So, and I agree that it does not appear to be a problem.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Is
No.
there anyone from the public who's waiting to be heard on Zoom this evening in connection with the application of Farrell CIT Buildco LLC? This is for property located at 851 Halsey Lane in Bridgehampton. If you are waiting to be heard on Zoom, this would be the time to let us know by raising your hand.
No hands.
Okay, if not, Susan, it's yours.
All right, I move that we close the public hearing. We hold this open for written comments until March 4th with a decision on March 17th.
Second.
Ms. Kern,
Aye.
Mr. Tuthill,
Aye.
Mr. Daly,
Aye.
Mr. Macedonia,
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Thank you for your comments this evening, Rooney, and have a good rest of your night.
Thank you. You also.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, item 5 on the agenda is 201 SR LLC, 201 Sagaponic Road in Bridgehampton, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-87-3-5.3. Applicant requests relief from Town Code 330-11, Residential Districts Table of Dimensional Regulations for a principal total side yard setback of 68 feet where 75 feet is required for a dwelling under construction on a non-conforming lot.
Board has jurisdiction.
Good evening, David.
Good evening, Chairman, members of the board. May I share my screen?
Sure.
Okay, my name is David Kirst. I'm from Matthews, Kirsten, Cooley, 241 Panago Road, East Hampton, on behalf of the applicant 201 SR LLC. Here is the survey of the existing foundation that's built, poured in the ground. As you know, we're requesting one minor variance for a principal total side yard of 68 feet where 75 feet is required in order to construct a proposed residence. The applicant already constructed the foundation pursuant to a building permit that was issued on November 9th with the setbacks as shown on the current survey. So under the mistaken belief that they were entitled to use the R60 setbacks, which would have required a lesser total side yard. Upon application to the building department for the permit for the house itself, it was discovered that that error was made, and we are here today because of that. Both side yards do meet the minimum for one side yard setback of 30 feet. The eastern side yard is from a flag strip portion of the neighboring property at 213 Sagaponic Road. That neighbor, Ava Auchincloss, I believe is how you pronounce it, Peterson, has submitted a letter in support. We've submitted that to the board. She says she believes that it will have no impact on her property or the immediately surrounding properties. So our client built pursuant to a permit that they had validly received, have spent approximately $470,000 to install this foundation, and are now here before you asking relief for 7 feet or 9% variance. We feel that there would be no undesirable change to the neighborhood, no detriment to any of the neighboring properties, and we ask for this relief.
David, can you put on the record who the contractor was?
The contractor. Hold on one moment. I have Richard Perillo, East End Builders.
All right.
That's who obtained the foundation permit.
Right. So
And-
normally, right, I'm sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to
Go ahead.
interrupt. Yeah, so I was gonna say, normally, if we have structures built without permits, we have, the person, someone familiar with what happened, come in to explain what occurred. In this instance, it was built with a permit, but it was built in the wrong location. So my only question to other members of the board is, are you okay with Mr. Chris' explanation, or do you want to get something either in writing or testimony from the contractor?
If I may, before you,
Sure.
it was not built in the wrong location.
Right,
It was built in the location that it was permitted on the survey that was approved.
right.
Right.
There was a
Right.
misunderstanding by, from what I understand, the building department, that somehow this property was allowed to use the R60 setback instead of the R80 for the zone that it is in. And they approved the foundation in the exact location it was built, and that's where it was built.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. So even more of a reason that we, should be understanding of the.
Yes, I would hope so.
Well, the fact that it was built with a permit as opposed to without a permit was in your favor to start with. The fact that it
Yes,
was
as
built-
always, it's
Yeah.
usually not that convenient.
It's true. But the fact that on top of that, it was built with a permit where it was supposed to be located on the permit that was approved in error, apparently. That is, the permit was approved in error in terms of the location, is, I think information that is relevant.
I have no problem with this application, David.
Yeah.
Nor do I.
No,
Yeah.
nor do I.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so we're good. And honestly, it's 7 feet. If it were, 25 feet,
Right.
a significant, impact on the neighbor, I could see an issue, but I don't see it.
Yeah, and it's still compliant with the minimum for either one, so unless those two neighbors talk, they'd never know that there was a setback issue.
Right. And I understand people are out there, working and you're doing the best you can, and sometimes things happen. That's, so, that occurs, and so we address those kinds of applications.
I and my client appreciate the board's understanding.
Yeah.
Anybody from the public out there, Adam?
Yes. So let's see. Okay, is there anyone from the public who's waiting to be heard this evening in connection with the application of 201 SR LLC? This is for property located at 201 Sagaponack Road in Bridgehampton. If you're waiting to be heard, this will be the time on Zoom. This will be the time to let us know by raising your hand.
No hands.
Okay. Yes.
Wait, wasn't, I thought we got some, is Pam Harwood out there? I thought she was here for something. No?
Well,
Not on
Not
this
here
one,
now.
I guess.
or didn't raise her hand.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, and I just want to say something, because Candace just texted me and I just wanted to make sure. David, do you know anything about the patio that's at the front? Like, is it a grade or is it anything that might need a variance? Because your front yard setback is supposed to be 80. That setback doesn't look like it's to the patio. I mean, just since you're here, I just want to make sure that doesn't need a variance.
I don't, the survey that I have shows that's, I don't know if that's just a landing. It does show, it looks like there shows a step on the survey that I have.
Okay, okay, yeah, I couldn't tell what that was.
Hold on,
And the
let me see if I have plans.
Yeah, and also the survey that you put up showed the setback is 36.1, right? Not it on the the two setbacks are 31.9 and 36.1.
No, the true setback is 36.2.
Okay,
And
we don't have
it
a
was-
survey that says that, I don't think.
No.
You do. I submitted it myself. We submitted both.
Yes, we do. Oh, all right,
We
so
have
then
that
okay, so then what is the principal total side yard setback of what, 68.1?
Yes.
Yep, that's what I have. That's what the survey said, 68.1. I believe it was advertised for 68.
Okay,
On my plans, I show that as it says patio, and it looks like there's 2 steps.
Candace,
that
does that
front
need a
patio.
variance?
No, I think it should be fine, because it's
Okay,
not
just wanted
covered.
to make sure, perfect. Thanks, Dave.
Thank you all very much. Appreciate the
Okay.
time.
Thank you. Keith, so it is yours.
Okay, motion to close written submissions by 3/4, determination 3/17.
Second,
Mr.
Thank
Tudhill.
you all.
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
aye.
Mr. Macedonio.
Aye.
Ms. Kern.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Have a good rest of your night, David.
Thank you. You too.
Thanks.
Okay, item 7 on the agenda. This is a reopen. Ross Weinstein, Ariel G. Ball, 31 New Lane, Shinnecock Hills, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-211-2-15. At the January 2022 meeting of the ZBA, the board voted to reopen the encroachment or reopen the application in order to clarify the record that the variance requested is for total pyramid encroachment in the amount of 2,773.1 cubic feet, 664 cubic feet on the east side and 2109.1 cubic feet on the west side, which translated to 359.3 square feet. That was the problem.
The board has
We ended up
jurisdiction.
advertising it for square footage, not cubic, cubic footage.
Correct.
So
Ross
that's
Ross
what
Weinstein
this is
here.
all about.
Okay.
Right.
All right. Do we need any further testimony on this or no? I have a decision.
I don't-
We have a decision.
Yeah. I don't think we need any further testimony. I just wanted, we wanted to make sure that it was advertised that way in case there was a neighbor that thought, oh, I don't have a problem with 369, but I might have a problem with 2,000. So I think it's more so just to see if anybody else is here.
Okay.
Yeah, let's see it. Let's see it.
Let's see that. Okay, so is there anyone waiting to be heard this evening in connection with the application of Weinstein and Ball? This is for property located at 31 New Lane in Shinnecock Hills. If you're waiting to be heard on Zoom, this would be the time to let us know by raising your hand.
No hands. No hands.
No hands. Okay. All right. If not, Keith, it's yours.
Motion to close determination later this evening.
Thank you. Thank you, Miguel and Ross.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Tudhill,
Aye.
Mr. Daly,
Aye.
Ms. Kern,
Aye.
Mr. Macedonio.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Thank you so much. Take care. Have a good rest of your night.
Thank you.
Okay, the next thing we have is on the homeowner holdover applications. I'm sorry. Number 9, 2/10 LLC in Hampton Bays, 2 TP Street, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-230-1-27.1.
John?
Good evening, Wayne.
Good evening, board members. Wayne Bruin, O'Shea, Marcinsick and Bruin on behalf of the applicants, the Gardner family and 2/10 LLC. This is a continuation of the public hearing back in November. At that time, the board asked us to address a couple of matters. One was with respect to the advisory report from the Conservation Board. It's my understanding, and you should be in possession of a copy of a letter of non-jurisdiction that was issued by the Conservation Board on December 23rd, 2021. Previously, we'd also provided you with a copy of the letter of non-jurisdiction from the New York State DEC from July 21st, 12th of 2021. Additionally, at the hearing, we became aware of the additional notice and issue that was raised by the building inspector and seeking a determination whether or not the proposed detached three-car garage is a subordinate or incidental building pursuant to the town code definitions because of its size in proportion to the main dwelling and its use. Just to remind the board what this application is about, the subject property is an irregular shaped lot containing 29,828 square feet. It's located in the resort waterfront business zone. The configuration of the lot was a result of the abandonment in years and years ago of Wigwam Road, which used to go northwest, southeast. And actually, once that road was abandoned, the two were attached. Part of our application while we were doing this, we did the normal single and separate search and found out that a small sliver of the Francolini property to the north was in the same ownership. We asked this board and presented the issues about single and separate. However, there's no relief that the single and separate ownership would provide us. We thought while we were in front of the board, we would just have you acknowledge that in fact, that short period of time in 1966 and 67, where that sliver of the Francolini parcel was in the same ownership. And we provided the typical evidence that this board is looking at, that it was never functionally part of this property. The property is improved with the single family dwelling. But before I say that, not only is the property irregularly shaped, it has 3 front yards, that being on TP Street on the east, Sagamore Road on the north, and Abe's Cove. As you know, the waterfront lot line is a front lot line. So we have 3 front yards, and the northwesterly or westerly lines are considered side lot lines. The property is improved with a single family dwelling. It consists of 2 levels, with the lower level utilized, was more or less used as a garage and storage, contains about 1,221 square feet, and the upper level with 3 bedrooms containing approximately 1,786 square feet for a total floor area of 3,007 square feet. The property is bulkheaded, has a right to maintain 3 or 4 boat slips. Like its adjoining property to the north, the Francolini property has a small dwelling, but more importantly has a boat ramp and has boat slips for 7 to 8 boat slips. And the property immediately to our south is the former Jackson's Marina, Prime Marina, which is commercially built and maintained with several boat slips. The properties to the north and east, however, and the rest of this map that is here are primarily developed residentially, and they're relatively smaller lots. We provided you with aerials and tax maps and established the character of the area there. We also provided you with several instances where this board has granted similar relief to accessory structures and principal structures. I just want to point out that in the RWB zone, the front yard requirement for principal and accessory structures is 60 feet. So here we have 60 feet coming from 3 sides. And interestingly, there is no, even though there's a side yard setback for principal buildings of 50 feet, which if you looked at, if we were trying to construct the principal structure here, there would be a small triangular area where the house is about less than 700 square feet, which has a buildable envelope. Notwithstanding that, the accessory setback, there is no side yard requirement in the table of use regulations. And what's being shared with you is a copy of the survey, and The blue line represents 60-foot setback from the streets as well as the water. And that's the envelope that ordinarily you would be able to put an accessory structure. The problem with this property, in addition, is we're in the FEMA flood zone, being adjacent to Abe's Cove, which is a tributary of the canal and Shinnecock Bay. The elevation, slopes up from the bulkhead in the water to a high point, which is at the intersection of Sagamore and TP. And the clients, to comply with FEMA, proposed the garage in this location, which is basically the highest place we could go. Of course, you could try to push it closer to the corner of the streets, but that maximizes or increases the front yard setbacks that we're looking for relief here. The application we submitted was for front yard setback from the street, from Sagamore, 40 feet, where 60 feet is required, and from TP of 31 feet. We originally had lines closer to, the garage was proposed closer to those streets, but we ran into pyramid issues, which interestingly, we talked about earlier. The only other commercial zone where pyramid applies is in the RWB. And I think this is the reason why, is a lot of RWB zones are actually developed residentially. The proposed garage has 2 levels. It's a 3-bay garage. The first level has 864 square feet, and the second level is accessed by an exterior staircase, contains 640 square feet, total of 1,504 square feet. In proportion to the existing dwelling, the total floor area of the garage represents approximately 50% of the total floor area of the dwelling. The garage will have electric service, but no other utilities or services, including no heating or no sanitary or anything else of that sort. The building complies to all requirements, including height and pyramid. It complies to FEMA. And more importantly, the building that is proposed for the applicant's family needs which will provide a secure interior storage space for their personal vehicles, bicycles, lawn equipment, boating and fishing and water sports equipment, outdoor furniture, and other similar items. The particular problem when our client purchased this property from Mrs. O'Neill was that they learned that the lower level of the building has been susceptible to periodic flooding during normal high tides and storm events. So not only did they need a place for their garage, the cars, but they want to have adequate storage space. So when we looked at this, when the board raised it, we recognized the statute and how the zoning board has applied the definition of an accessory building. And more importantly, how this board in many decisions has undertaken the task of trying to determine what is subordinate and incidental. And in many of those cases, some of which have been litigated, you have generally defined that subordinate means something of lesser importance, having a minor role. And more importantly, you do not assign or dictate a numerical value, but you do look at the size of the structure as to see if it has lesser meaning or is generally smaller. We looked at many cases that this board has considered, and we've seen a range anywhere between 21% and 63% of the dwelling. In many cases, we can provide you with copies of all those cases you've considered. And just, these are just, we have several examples over the past 7 years. But we even found one case where you approved 2 garages, which were both generally smaller, but when you take them together, they exceeded the size of the dwelling by 118%. So, but on the other hand, we also looked at when does this board find that the size of the garage may lend itself to not be subordinate and incidental. And we noticed, like in the case at 102 North Phillips Avenue, a proposed garage, which was 3 times the size of the dwelling, was not considered subordinate, and the board denied it. And we think that was totally appropriate. We also are understanding of the case law. In particular, for example, in Yorktown, there was a case where an applicant proposed an 8 or 9 car garage to be used for his antique cars, and the zoning board in that case, and the court upheld the zoning board's denial, saying that wasn't a subordinate use to the single family dwelling that was there. So in this particular case, going back to the, clearly the proposed garage is subordinate to the single family dwelling, the 3 bedroom dwelling that is here. It's generally smaller. It's 50%, approximately 50% of the floor area. It otherwise complies in all respects and is necessary for our client to achieve the storage needs that are here for both its vehicles and all the other items I mentioned. So if you have any particular questions, I think we tried to answer all the questions the board raised. The building inspector had raised a number of things. We provided the board with the revised plans. In particular, there was questions about a patio that was existed and constructed at the time. The building inspector is under the belief that maybe it wasn't built with a permit or not. You can see this foundation that was there when the building was built. The area we're talking about is the space in this corner, which I think the next picture will show you has been a long-standing patio, which the building inspector has questioned. Also, they questioned the height of the fence or the need for a permit for the fence that was along the south property line. And we've come to learn that that fence is actually the marina's fence. You can see a portion of it, maybe, I don't know if you can blow that up, but you can see a portion of that fence that's in the corner down there, and it's right adjacent to the marina, and you see the finish side is facing us. And that is actually the marina's fence screening the marina use from the dwelling use on this property. So I think we've addressed, and otherwise all the other items the building inspector asked for, we addressed in the plans and the survey that was submitted to you.
Okay, well, I appreciate all the information. It's very helpful. I don't have any questions. I'm not sure if there are questions of members of the board. Katie?
Wait, do we have all those written subs and the numbers and everything?
The survey show that. What I just looked at the architectural plans today. I thought they had them on it. I may be looking at a different one, but I believe if I'll talk to Candace tomorrow, make sure that the floor areas numbers are on the plans that you have. If you don't, we'll get them to you immediately.
All right, well, that's what I'm saying. You kept on saying about 50%. Is it 50%? Like what's?
Yeah, it's like 50.02, when you do the math. So I just rounded up and said 50%.
Wayne, did I understand you to say that you had 1,200 square foot of storage under the house already?
Correct. Okay. But it's become unusable, during high tide events and storm events. It's basically flooded. So right now the applicant has things there, but they're on pedestals or things that are at least three feet above the floor. So it's really restricted what they can put in there. They can't put vehicles or other things that would be in contact with the floor in that building. And, unless they're there 100% of the time, every time the tide happens to come up.
Well, that's what happens when you buy waterfront. You're down by the water, bub. Trust me, I know.
Yeah, and I think at some point in the future, like we've discussed, is that there will be a time when that house is reconstructed and it'll be moved back and further up the hill and be meet some other standards as well.
Spend the money and fix what's underneath the house now. I mean, there's a lot of space underneath there. I've been there a couple times, and they're parking everything up the hill anyhow.
Right, right. And but the point is they can't do anything, Keith, without making it conform to FEMA. And that would mean basically either lifting the entire house and to meet FEMA, technically all that space is pre-existing. So it would have to actually be eliminated. So the likely thing is if they do something here, will a new house would be reconstructed further up the hill.
Okay.
Okay, but just before we close this, so the two-story 3-car garage, total square footage is approximately 50% the size of the existing 1-story house.
Correct.
Okay.
He said it was 1,200 square feet below the existing house.
Yes, and
1,700 and change up top.
Right. The total floor area 3,007, and the garage is 1,504 with the 2 floors.
What's the intent of using the 1,200 square foot below? Is that going to be usable or abandoned or what?
So it's there and it will remain in the house, but it's basically unusable as we described.
So the habitable
Existing.
space essentially is the 1,700.
Well,
True,
for
that
the
is habitable space. But
Everything's good. Everything's good with that. It's just 3-car garage with access to up top. Just
But if this, I mean, but that, remember the analysis is whether the size is subordinate. It's, it doesn't, it's the massing. This isn't like an accessory apartment where we're looking at habitable space. We're really just looking at the massing of this. So
Right.
if it appears subordinate and the square footage is subordinate and it's 50%, that's consistent.
Okay.
It is. I don't have a problem with it at 50%. And I think it's the size and it's also what it's being used for. So I think it's both things. Okay. Any other questions or comments, members of the board?
No.
Is there anyone from the public who's waiting to be heard this evening in connection with the application of O'Neill? This is for property located, or actually, I'm sorry, 210 LLC. This is for property located at 2 Tepe Street in Hampton Bays. If you're waiting to be heard on Zoom, this will be the time to let us know by raising your hand.
No hands.
Okay. So if not, it's Helen's application, but I'll make the motion to close, except for written subs. Deadline for written subs, which were the written subs that Wayne, you and Katie discussed, is 3/4.
Okay.
And we will have a decision ready for our March 3/4 and decision March 17th.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Daly,
Aye.
Ms. Kern,
Aye.
Mr. Macedonio,
Aye.
Mr. Tudhill,
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Thanks so much, Wayne. Are you done for tonight?
I hope so.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
All
Have
right.
a good evening and
Take care,
welcome
John.
aboard. Welcome aboard, Bob. Thank you.
Thank you, Wayne.
Okay. Thanks. Good night.
Item 10 on the agenda is Donald Noble, 14 Sandy Lane in Remsenburg, Spionk area, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-368-2-38.21. It's held over from our 120 meeting.
Good evening, Jim Hume from Kelly and Hume, 323 Mill Road, West Hampton Beach. Good evening. Good evening, all. As you may recall quickly from last time, we are seeking to add an attached 2-car garage to an existing home. And the garage meets the setback requirements for the property line, but not for the portion of the property that is offered for dedication, although to the town for a future road improvement. It does not interfere, if this variance is granted, it wouldn't interfere in any way with the ability to use that road if it were in fact improved by the town. but it would end up closer to the road than would be permitted, and thus the variance we're seeking here. We had talked about last time some precedent for having granted a similar variance, I believe, for the tennis court. There were some, when we left off, I think there was pretty much satisfaction with the presentation of the case itself, but there were some issues that had been raised by the building department. And I am in receipt of, and hopefully you are as well. I got them from Candace this afternoon, 2 different memos. One from the building inspector indicated that she reviewed the updated survey that we provided, and it addresses her comments. And the other issue was the rear deck on the property. And the building inspector at first didn't believe there was ever a permit or a CO for it, but she's indicated in her memo that the deck addition located at the rear of the building was approved by the building department in 1997 under certificate number A0164543. So I think we have addressed those issues that were raised by the building department. And I think that's what you wanted us to report back on. So that's what we did.
Okay, and thank you. Appreciate that.
Sure, thank you.
Okay. Any questions or comments from members of the board or Katie? Okay, is there anyone from the public who's waiting to be heard this evening in connection with the application of Noble? This is for property located at 14 Sandy's Lane in Remsenburg. If you're waiting to be heard on Zoom, this would be the time to let us know by raising your hand.
Hands.
No hands? Okay. If not, if there are no hands, then Helen has to lead on the application. She's not here this evening. I would move that we close the application this evening, except for written subs. The deadline for written subs is March 4th, and I will have a decision ready at our March 17th meeting.
Second.
Mr. Tuthill.
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Ms. Kern.
Aye.
Mr. Macedonio.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Thanks so much, Jim. Have a good rest
Thank
of
you.
your
Good night, all. Have a good evening.
Bye.
Thanks, Jim. Good seeing you.
Yep. Good to see you all. Bye-bye.
Okay, item 11 on the agenda is Robert Fuhrer and Judith Lang, 32A Penny Lane, Hampton Bays, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-323-2-31. This is held over from our January 20th, 22 meeting.
Good evening, Daphne.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Very good, thank you.
That's good. So you were previously sworn in. So basically just looking for you to give us an update.
Okay, is it all right if I share my screen?
Of course.
Let me figure out how to do that again. Oh, there we go. Okay. Okay, so when we last met, the board had some concerns about our accessory building, and we had been also advised to try to reduce our proposed pyramid for the new residence that we were proposing, because there was some concerns of the neighbor to the north, Deb Piro, who also appeared. So the architect, Paul Quinton, who is here, met with Mr. Fuhrer and Ms. Lang to review the project. And what they did is they did some very minor, excuse me, modifications to the house as far as a reduction in the footprint by about a little less than 100 square feet. But what they did is they also slid it south. We were previously at 10.7 feet from this lot line. The existing house is at 9.4 feet. So we're now 18 feet. And what that does is that moves everything away. There's also been a reduction in the accessory building and removal of the proposed plumbing in it. The accessory building before was 13 feet by 21 feet 4 inches, and now it's been reduced to basically a shed of 10 by 12. A reworking of the elevated patio, so that there's access to both, because this is at a first floor of 11. So the patio is at 9.5, so there'll be steps to get from grade, which I believe is at 7 or 6 around here. I can't see. I think it's 6 to 7. Yeah, there's a 7-foot elevation. And the pyramid gets reduced to 420 cubic feet from our previous request of 3,902.6 cubic feet. So I just wanted to show you the survey. Paul is also on. He was sworn in last time as well. Let me stop sharing because he's here. I'll let him share his screen so he can show the plan differences with the pyramid. But there is no longer a pyramid on the accessory building. That has been completely eliminated. The setback for the accessory building has gone from a 2-foot setback on that rear yard to a 10-foot setback, where 50 is required, because this is an RWB zoning district. So we're kind of limited here. If this were a regular residential zone, we would probably have to meet, a 10 or 20-foot zoning setback, where we're kind of stuck with this 50-foot. So Paul, if you want, you can share. I'll just go through the changes to the variances that we're requesting.
Okay. May I share my screen?
Sure.
So for the residents, we need a variance from 331.15C for continuance of the principal rear yard setback from the pre-existing 39.3 feet to 25.1 feet, where previously we were asking for 22.7. So that has been basically lessened by 2.4 feet. And for the principal total side yards from the pre-existing 65.3 feet to 56.8 feet. Previously, we were asking for 56.3 feet. And then the pyramid of 420 cubic feet. So here you can see the change on the pyramid plan. It's just this clip in the roof. The open deck on the front and the side of the residence is from 330/70/60 and 83C for its location within the required side yard to the principal structure. So there's no change to that variance. And then for the detached accessory building, the variance, as I mentioned, from 330-34 from the RWB setback for a proposed rear yard setback of 10 feet, where 50 feet is required. As I mentioned previously, we were showing it at 2 feet. And we had an 830 cubic foot pyramid relief request. So that has been completely eliminated, as Paul is showing here on the plan. And then lastly, for the elevated patio between the structures, because it's greater than 12 inches above grade, we would need a variance from 330/83C as it's within the required rear yard. We have provided both electronic and paper copies of the plans to Ms. Pirro this week. She did give me a call yesterday. I was unavailable, so I couldn't answer her questions. I did not get to speak to her today. I'm sure she's probably here for the board to discuss this. But she has been provided copies of this in advance. She could understand the changes.
Okay. Well, a lot of effort went into all of this, and I do appreciate that. Paul, I want to give you also an opportunity to tell us a little bit about the changes that were made.
Sure. So I'll continue to share and just kind of point and click if you don't mind.
Okay.
So let's start with the plan. Like Candace said, what we did in this plan was to reduce this dimension which initially was 40 feet, 0 3/8 of an inch. We shrunk it down to 2 feet. What that allowed us to do was really plan this a little bit better and give us the opportunity to do this accessory structure and also raise plaza area and keep this back from the property line 10 feet, which is indicated here on the survey. The other major change, obviously, is the pyramid. So the opportunity to slide this to 18 feet from 10'7" really reduced the amount of violation or piercing of this pyramid line from where it was previous. The previous had much more bigger cut into the building, if you recall, and that is a long facade. So we felt that this was a very, very grand effort on our part to reduce as much as possible. And what we did in essence of sliding it was to, and the survey would be the best one, we still need to keep away from this sanitary structure that's here. Unfortunately, because of the site, we have very sort of definite constraints. We have restraining forces on the site. We have our wetlands and 50-foot conservation setback that we have here. So the building could not slide any further this way. And it really at the maximum at 18 feet in this direction, just to keep all these setbacks that we have here. We have to keep a 10-foot setback offset from the sanitary ring. So that's why this building sort of lands where it does now, right here. Also giving us a very modest way to get into the building from the proposed driveway. Just a little bit more of graphics so that you could see this is sort of a 3D model of what the house would look like. The only real way to really accurately calculate, just so that you could see, because it's such a big difference from the 3,900 square feet we were asking. 420 square feet is significant reduction. So I just wanted to show you how I calculated that, just so that you could see that we were being above board in our calculation efforts. So, I'm happy to answer any questions. The homeowners are also on this Zoom call there. I know they've been admitted. I think they would provide some insight on how they saw the project too. And if you'd like, after I answer some of your architectural questions, I think we would benefit hearing from them.
And that's fine. Well, I'm just pretty much taking a look at the presentation, which is pretty detailed as to how the relief was reduced. A lot of effort went into this, and I'm hoping that the adjacent property owner will be satisfied, but we'll find out.
Daphne, can you remind me, did you get, like, where is this with the conservation board? Is it non-jurisdiction? What is it?
It's a non-jurisdiction. That's the 50-foot. We could go closer to the bulkhead. It's kind of counterintuitive to do so. There's also a flood zone boundary there that we did mention previously, that we're showing a first floor elevation of 11 because we're so close to that AE elevation 9, where we're in an 8 zone right now, but we're bumping it up that additional foot because we are so close to that AE 11 zone. We could go closer toward the bulkhead and get a wetlands permit for this, but that seems kind of silly. If we're able to meet the 50-foot non-jurisdiction, we should do that.
Yeah, I would also like to piggyback on that. Not only what Daphne said is correct, but if you see this line here, that's the limit of moderate wave action. Essentially, you don't want to build any part of the house in that if you can help it. So for us to be on this side of that, it benefits the actual main structure. The deck, it can be constructed in such a way where it's not attached to the house. So, but this, I wanted to keep, I wanted to keep in there. The current house actually, if you go to the survey here, the existing house also is very close to it, as you can see. So you really don't want to be on this side of that if you can help it.
Yeah,
So
once you
that's-
cross that limit of moderate wave action, you need to construct to VE standards versus the AE.
Okay, any other questions? Members of the board, Katie?
No.
Okay. All right, wanted to ask if there's anyone from the public who would like to be heard this evening in connection with the application of Pure and Lang. This is actually, I know that the applicants are here.
Yes,
So
the
before I
homeowner.
ask about neighbors.
I'm gonna
Yeah, I
stop
wanna-
sharing my screen.
Okay, yes. Robert and Judith just want to get your comments before I.
I
open
do.
it to neighbors.
Thank you so much for your consideration. We just wanted to say that, as you could see, we tried to go at great length, to try to address the concerns of our neighbor and the zoning board, and we're very hopeful for your consideration. We didn't really have a lot more to add. I mean, I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have, but we really tried to go out of our way to try to address the issues.
Okay, well, thank you, and I do appreciate that. I don't have anything I want to ask at all until we hear from the neighbor who I think is waiting to be heard. But any other questions of members of the board or Katie of the applicants? Okay, if not, Deborah, I believe you were previously sworn in.
Yes.
Okay, so if you can just state your name for the record again, and
Deborah Piero.
okay, and you can just give us your comments. I know there's a lot of information that's just.
Yeah, 30 Penny Lane, Hampton Bays, New York.
Okay, thank you. So I know there was a lot of information, but the application has been significantly modified. So I want, I think myself and the rest of the board, we want to find out your, reaction to what we just heard.
So I'm really grateful that the modifications have been made, and I was able to pick up plans on Tuesday from Daphne. So I, thanked her for that. I did drop the plans to a local surveyor who was working on them today because I value his input as far as the setbacks. I wanted them double checked. I also had the help of someone else who provided me with overlays, because we had asked for grayscale overlays during the last meeting to sort of show the project that is being proposed versus the existing home on the 3rd acre. So I did email you guys a letter, a note, whatever, with photographs, Google Earth photographs of the lot with overlays that I had created. And I also had sketches of the overlays on the survey and on top of the existing home, which I emailed to you. And I provided Candace today, because she called me today and requested 10 copies of that package. So that was dropped off to the town, I guess this afternoon around 3 p.m. for your review as well. I don't know if you've had a chance to look at that information, but as I drove, as I've been driving around our community and Penny Lane in particular and across the creek, we are a community of 1-story, maybe 1.5-story homes. Anything that's 2 stories is on a significantly larger lot. And it also doesn't obstruct the view of a neighbor to the rear, who, by the way, is also on this call. And I know she registered and her computer wasn't working. So she came to my home and she is here with me and would like to speak. I know she did register to speak. So that would be wonderful if you could hear her as well. I guess my concerns are the same. I'm really grateful that the house has been slid to the south. But as I had mentioned during the last meeting, why are we putting a 2+ story home that must be FEMA compliant, of course, on a 3rd acre? The mass is tremendous. It's not befitting of what's in the neighborhood. It just aesthetically and, it's not appropriate. And why am I providing overlays and Google Earth photographs and things of that nature when, I had asked, if that could be provided for us and for you to actually see. And honestly, what elevation are we going off of from this project? The low point on the property, the high point on this property, an average of the elevations? I mean, this thing, how high is it going to be in the air? Can we have a mock-up of a ridge line to assess that? There's a neighbor behind and I'm to the north. And then there's the matter of the covered porches. Why are the decks covered? I mean, are they going to be enclosed at a future time? I know that has nothing to do with this board. We're here in the present and we're looking at the project today as it's being proposed. But with that kind of building and construction, at some point, those covered porches will be enclosed. We see it all the time. I'm concerned about the height of the project and I'm concerned about the mass of the project. These are not new concerns. These were concerns that I voiced during the last meeting. The sky plane was one of my issues, but these were my others. And like I said, our community is cottage and I understand people have rights to build and improve and I'm all for that, but I just think it's out of character. And it also affects the aesthetic and the quiet enjoyment of everybody around it. So I think we can do better. I think we're moving in the right direction. And I would ask that somebody on this project, the architect on this project, provide us with the exact grayscale overlays and a mock-up in the field, because we're going from pre-existing non-conforming one-story non-FEMA house to a pre-existing FEMA compliant, to a house that's going to be FEMA compliant, but it's going to be raised up 2 stories plus an attic. I mean, how do you do that on a 3rd acre? And do you guys ever go to visit the sites so that you can kind of see what I'm trying to articulate?
I could respond if you want on a couple of those points, but I'll let somebody else talk if they need to first.
Yeah, Deborah, before we have a response, your neighbor, if she's there and wants to speak to us, you can have her come on, that would be fine.
Awesome, thank you. Here, you use mine. Just turn that off, mute it.
Yeah, that's the only one.
Yeah, mute
Yeah,
it. Okay.
one piece of equipment.
Sorry, guys.
That's what happens.
Okay. So I actually made a copy for Elizabeth also. Can you see her?
We can see her, yes.
Good. I made a
Hi.
copy of the
Hi.
plans, and so she had a chance to see them tonight.
Okay, very good. So Elizabeth, I just have to swear you in. So if you can just state your name and address for the record, please.
Elżbieta Soroka, 32 Penny Lane, Hampton Bays.
And do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Okay, if you can tell us your concerns.
I'm not really good with talking, so I don't feel comfortable talking, but I think that the house is going to be too big, too tall, on that kind of property. When I sit in my couch, I see right now the sky. When I will be sitting and the house will raise, I will see just the wall, nothing else. So no water, nothing. I bought this house because of the peaceful neighborhood, low rise buildings, houses. So I really don't see this house on that property.
Okay, so it sounds to me like you both would like us to deny the application.
Yes, that's
Yes, correct.
Okay. All right. Paul, do you want to respond to the comments a little bit?
Sure. First and foremost, there are plenty of 2-story houses on Penny Lane. I've designed and built 4 of them myself, but that doesn't really mean too much. You are entitled to do a 2-story house, and words that were being used like aesthetics and too tall, I don't think are appropriate to discuss for zoning because we do comply with the height requirement. And it is unfortunate that the house is right next to somebody else's house. We can't change that. We are, I would believe, you can build a two-story house on a small lot as long as you conform to the height requirements, and we're asking for a minor pyramid relief. As far as the request for the overlay, that was the public's request. That wasn't a request from the zoning board. That's the reason why it wasn't done. Personally, I don't know if there's a benefit from this because the height that we are going with is a FEMA height of base flood elevation 8+2. So everything springboards from that because you're in a flood zone. The existing house is at 8.7. So yes, it's significantly lower. And yes, the house will be significantly larger because it is a two-story house. I don't think this application should be punished because there's not any two-story houses in Penny Lane. I did 2 houses across the Penny Pond on Gardeners, and those are two-story houses. I've done 2 on, I did 1 on Gilbert, which is right down the street, and 20 Penny Lane I did. So I would beg to differ on the two-story house in the community. I'd also like to note that the applicant, Ms. Pirro, her property has got to be at least 100-something feet away from this property line. I do have some pictures if it would benefit.
I have some as well.
Yeah, we do have some significant vegetation in between her lot and Fura's lot that will thrive in the spring and perhaps provide some sort of. I don't believe this house is going to really affect her view per se too much. And it's not an egregious ask to do a two-story home with keeping the height, the minimum with FEMA at 42 feet. We're not even there. I believe we're probably even less than the 32 feet that we're allowed to take at base flood elevation +2. We're significantly lower than that. So I don't know if Daphne has any other things that she would like to add on this or the homeowners, but you know, those are my 2 things. Of course, you know, we want to help. We don't want to hurt the process, but I do have to say that, you know, as the architect, I get kind of concerned when the zoning board hears terms like aesthetics. That's not a zoning board charge, and scale, and it shouldn't be on a third of a lot.
Yeah. And you know what we do is we analyze applications based on the variance standards.
I get it.
Yeah. Okay.
And I appreciate
and
that.
it's not that aesthetics don't matter at all to us, but it's not, that is technically not part of our test. Yeah.
Okay, Daphne, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. So yeah, with respect to the height, the maximum allowable height for FEMA in a flood zone is elevation 42. We're showing the ridge height here at elevation 36 just under 36.5. So we're well within the allowable maximum height range in a flood zone. I do have some photos that I took yesterday, if I can share my screen. So this photo right here, let's see if I can zoom in. This photo is taken at the corner of the bulkhead. This is the Pirro residence right here. This is the foyer residence, and this is the home next door at 34. The Sirocco residence is behind here. So you'll see there's these trees right here that are between the foyer and the Pirro residence. So the distance here, this is, I believe it's about 140 feet between the 2 residences of Miss Pirro's house. And I'm sorry, it just kind of freaked out there. What happened? There it is. This is about a distance of about 140 feet between the 2 residences. And this is the Sirocco house right here. So what's going on? Her house is here. But the majority of the new development, this is going to slide further south, and the new development will actually be behind the residence. So it shouldn't really be affecting her view shed as far as Miss Pirro is concerned. So you'll see there's this tree line here, and actually there's a better version of it here.
Yeah,
These
Deborah, if
large
you can mute
trees.
yourself, because we can hear you. You can mute yourself, so we're having trouble hearing Daphne. Please.
So this is taken from the entry into the property at the driveway. So you'll see this is a large tree line. The house is probably going to be underneath or within this tree line when all is said and done. So I don't think when these trees leaf out that there's going to be any significant view shed to the Pirro house on the other side. And then this is 34. This is a significant two-story residence that's right next door. So just to go back, again, you can't even see Ms. Pirro's house from the Foyer property in any direction. So I'm not sure how this is really going to be greatly affecting her. And we could take this whole project, we could move it within her view shed for sure, move it closer to the bulkhead, go get a wetlands permit, put the house on pilings, which will be not so great looking because it will be in a VE flood zone requirement. Would be required to do buffer plantings along the bulkhead, which, not the end of the world. But then they'd be required to spend a lot more money to construct this house because it would require, the piling foundation and pile caps and all of that other stuff. And Paul could speak to that. But there's really no reason for that. It's a 14-foot difference to maintain that pre-existing non-conforming rear yard setback. And we could then also slide, if we're going to do that, then we could slide it also further south to fully eliminate the pyramid entirely, and then maintain the need just for the variance for the deck and the required side yard and the accessory structure. But again, that seems counterintuitive, counterproductive, and not really necessary. And I can submit copies of these for the board.
Okay, thank you for your comments.
Yeah, can I speak, please? So,
Sure.
thank you. I feel like that was a threat, first of all, Daphne. Secondly, someone asked who was on the board about what the ceiling heights were for this project. So perhaps, and I asked you the other day if the ceiling heights were addressed, and you said the ceiling heights were not changed. Perhaps the ceiling heights are lowered to normal heights. And then maybe that brings down the ridge line to benefit the homeowner behind you. And yes, if you look at the imposed scale overlays that I had prepared, which I'm sure the board doesn't have in front of them yet, because I just received them yesterday and made copies today when I was asked by the town, you'll see that this does affect my property, and it does affect my view because the porches are covered with roofs. So I may be 100 feet away from this, and I'm happy that I am, but that doesn't give me, I still have the right to question what's going on here. And yes, number 20 has a gigunda FEMA compliant house on it, but you know what? I think they have almost an acre of property and they're not blocking anybody behind them. And when you stand on Gardner's and you photograph Penny Lane waterfront, it's unsightly to see this nearly 3-story home with cottages all the way down the block, with the exception, yes, of the house just to the south of the Fuhrer residence and of the Soraka residence, but he is on a substantially larger lot and his house is much further back than the Fuhrer residence. So perhaps the ceiling heights could be addressed. I know that was mentioned during the last meeting. And I would like to see a mock-up of the ridge line. And
Well, yeah, and normally when it comes to ceiling heights, we would be making those kinds of requests when we still had a significant amount of pyramid relief. The pyramid relief has been reduced to less than 1,000 cubic feet. So I'm speaking for myself, not in favor of reducing ceiling heights and changing it, being that we have such a low figure on pyramid at this point. However, I know you're looking for some other information. I'm not sure. Can that be provided to Daphne, to Deborah?
As far as a mock-up, is that what we're talking about?
I think that's what Deborah, is that what you were asking for?
yeah, like, a mock-up of the ridge line on the site so that everybody can see what it's going to look like. Why are we putting this? I mean, honestly, when I had dropped these plans to a surveyor, he was concerned about the setbacks and hadn't had a chance to look at them. And he just received them yesterday because I just received them Tuesday. I went to pick them up. So I have someone at Squires and Holden who is looking at this. And you know what? Yeah, okay, go into the wetlands and build higher and bigger and whatever. That's not the right attitude to have, Daphne. You don't live where I live.
It's not the attitude. I'm just saying that that's a possibility in order for us to avoid
Maybe it was the inflection in your voice.
Back and forth. I think at this point, we've had enough back and forth. I think Deborah and Elizabeth, I understand your position. Daphne, I understand, and Paul, I understand your position. I think we just have to make a decision. So
one last comment as far as
please. Come on, Daphne.
No, the last thing the board needs to understand is that you're allowed 20% roof coverage on the property, and we are proposing 13.7%. So we're well under that as well.
That's fine. Okay,
that's all I want to say.
You've done a good job trying to appease everybody.
I've heard enough testimony.
Yeah, we run enough testimony. Okay, so in any case, I just want to make sure there isn't anyone else waiting to be heard from the public for 32A Penny's Lane, Hampton Bays, Fuhrer and Lang. If not, Keith, it is yours.
Wait, Keith, I have one more thing. Wait, I have one more thing to add. Just Daphne and Paul, follow up with the building department because I'm not sure if they've reviewed, have they seen the most recent plans, the reduced pyramid and everything?
I submitted them on Monday, so I'm not sure if they've looked at them.
All right, so just follow up with them and I know that Deborah was concerned about setbacks, so the building department, of course, will go over these again and make sure that nothing is missed and no new variances are required. So just follow up with that.
This is all based upon the prior meeting that I had with Marjorie and Candace initially, and then this is adjustments to those same variances. So it should be fine.
No, I believe it. I just, we want a final sign off.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, the ball's in my lap. Motion to close. Written submissions by 3/4. Determination 3/17.
Second.
Thank you, Robert.
Mr. Tudhill.
Aye.
Mr. Macedonia.
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Ms. Kern.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Thank you all for your comments this evening. Have a good rest of your night.
Deborah and Ann, you will have until March 4th to submit anything you like to our board for us to take into consideration before this decision on the 17th.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, item 13 on the agenda is Philip Patel and Sabjit Kaur Dealing. Sorry about that, but 147 Edgemere Drive in North Sea, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-31-1-3.2. This is held over from a few meetings. Let's go
Yep.
for it.
So,
Yes, and I believe the last meeting, Mark, you had appeared.
yes, that's correct.
So anyway, if you can tell us where we are.
Okay, so just a good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
We just received the flagging of the wetlands just a few days ago from conservation. The work that we're doing does not affect the wetlands, but it is within the 200 feet within 200 feet. And so we'd like to maybe adjourn to make a full presentation at the next meeting.
Yes, yeah. So if
But
you need
also-
wetlands approval, then we would want you to apply and proceed with that and then come back.
Right. And also, I think it was had been assigned to Brian. I think Brian is no longer with you.
Yep, I think I'm taking the lead on this one.
Okay, great, Adam. Looking
Yep.
forward. Thank you. All right.
Okay, so my other question is, how long do you think you're gonna need?
I think maximum 30 days.
Okay, well, we have room on our agenda, I think. Let me just double check. The one
First
meeting we
meeting
don't
in
have room on our agenda is the 17th.
Yeah.
Okay.
We have room in our agenda on the first meeting in April, which is April 7th.
So April 7th or the 17th?
April 7th.
April 7th.
April 7th. Okay, fantastic. Okay, we'll see you then. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. All right, so I would move that we adjourn the application of Patel and Dylan for all purposes until our April 7th meeting.
Second.
Mr. Tuthill.
Aye.
Mr. Macedonio.
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Ms. Kern.
Aye.
Joe votes aye. Thanks so much, Mark. Have a good rest of your night.
Thank you very much. Same to you. Bye-bye.
We're on to the decision calendar.
We are. I have a few, but I know other people have a couple. You want me to start first?
Go ahead, where you go? Go ahead.
Okay,
Go.
why not? All right. So I have a decision in the matter of the application of Amabilia H. Estrada Ruiz. This is for property located at Suffolk County Tax Act number 900-354-468. This application is for property located at 46 Seagate Avenue, West Hampton. Applicant requests a rear yard setback for a proposed second-story addition. This application passes the standards set forth in New York State Town Law and the Town Code. Therefore, this board grants relief from Town Code Section 330-115 D2 continuance for a principal rear yard setback of 24.9 feet where 30 feet is permitted for a proposed second-story addition as shown in the survey prepared by Paul Barilski of Raceig Land Surveying and Engineering PC, last dated December 22nd, 2021, and the plans prepared by Linda Buddlescheiss, architect, last revised December 10th, 2021. Granted the foregoing relief is subject to such other conditions and permits as applicant has already acquired or may otherwise have to require for final approval of the subject premises, including the removal or relocation of the two sheds on the premises prior to the issuance of any certificates for the addition.
Second.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Ms. Kern.
Aye.
Mr. Tudhill.
Aye.
Mr. Macedonio.
Abstain.
Chair votes aye. Next, I have a determination in the matter of the application of PJT Realty Management LLC for property located at Suffolk County Tax Act number 900-6243.2. This application is for property located at 21 Spring Lane, Noyak. Applicant requests a single and separate determination as well as variances for a proposed 10-foot by 23-foot pool and expansion of decking. This application passes the standards set forth in New York State Town Law and the Town Code. Therefore, this board finds the premises to be a single and separate 6,664 square foot lot entitled to relief pursuant to Town Code 33115D and further grants relief from the following provisions of the Town Code. 1. Town Code 33077D, placement of accessory buildings, structures, and uses in residence districts for a proposed rear yard lot coverage of 33.2%, where a maximum of 20% is permitted for a proposed swimming pool and the expansion of an elevated wood deck on a non-conforming lot. And 2, Town Code 33084D, pyramid height for an encroachment in the amount of 16 cubic feet, 4 cubic feet proposed and 12 cubic feet existing for a proposed deck expansion. These variances are granted for structures as shown on the survey prepared by Jeffrey W. Hatterer of Twin Forks Land Surveying, last dated December 6, 2021, and the pyramid diagram prepared by Jeffrey Sands Architect dated January 11, 2022. The grant of the foregoing relief is subject to such other conditions and permits as the applicant has already acquired or may otherwise have to acquire for final approval of the subject premises, including the planting and maintenance of arborvitae trees along the property line of 17 Butcher Lane by the applicant and all future owners of the premises, and compliance with any town code clearing restrictions and/or regulations.
Second.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Ms. Kern.
Aye.
Mr. Tuthill.
Aye.
Mr. Macedonio.
Same.
Chair votes aye. Next, I have a determination on the matter of the application of 720 North Sea Road LLC for property located at Suffolk County Tax Map Number 900-132-11. This application is for property located at 720 North Sea Road, North Sea. Applicant requests a clarification with respect to parking of landscaping vehicles on the premises in connection with a landscape business. The matter was also before the planning board by resolution adopted February 10th, 2022. They clarified their record and amended the site plan approval dated July 13th, 2017 to allow the overnight and outside storage of landscaping vehicles in the parking spaces approved by the Dario's landscaping property. As such, and consistent with this clarification, the Zoning Board of Appeals hereby clarifies that decision number D016103 dated July 21st, 2016, allows for the overnight and outdoor storage of landscaping vehicles in the parking spaces on the premises as identified on the site plan approved by the Southampton Town Planning Board dated July 13th, 2017, and modified by resolution adopted February 10th, 2022. All other provisions of ZBA decision number D016103 dated July 21st, 2016 remain in effect.
Second.
Second.
Mr. Tuthill.
Aye.
Ms. Kern.
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Mr. Macedonio.
Same.
Chair votes aye. And last one I have is on the application of Ross Weinstein and Ariel G. Ball for property located at Suffolk County Tax Map Number 900-211-215. This application is for property located at 31 New Lane. Applicant requests variances in connection with a proposed two-story dwelling. This application passes the standards set forth in New York State Town Law and the Town Code. Therefore, this board grants relief on the following provisions of the Town Code for a proposed two-story dwelling on a non-conforming lot. Town Code 33011, Residence Districts Table of Dimensional Regulations, for a proposed front yard setback of 42 feet where 80 feet is required. And Town Code 33084D, Pyramid Height, for a proposed encroachment in the amount of 2,773.1 cubic feet, 2,109.1 cubic feet on the west side, and 664 cubic feet on the east side. These variances are for structures as shown on the site plan prepared by Miguel Weinstein Architect, last revised November 24, 2021, and the plans and elevations last dated January 28, 2021. The grant of the foregoing relief is subject to such other conditions and permits as applicant has already acquired or may otherwise have to acquire for final approval of the subject premises.
Second.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Ms. Kern.
Aye.
Mr. Tuthill.
Aye.
Mr. Macedonio.
Same.
Chair votes aye. And before we go on to other decisions, I forgot at the last meeting to congratulate Helen for her reappointment to the zoning board, but I'll congratulate her next time. And Mike, I want to congratulate you this time for your being reappointed.
Thank you.
I have one decision. All right, so can I read mine? Oh,
Sure.
Keith, do you have one? Keith, do you have a
No, I'm
decision?
good. Go
Okay,
ahead, sir.
I do. I have a decision in the matter of the application of 808 Mecox Road LLC. The applicant requested relief from the town code for an accessory side yard setback and a rear yard coverage to permit the location of a proposed sunken tennis court. Therefore, the board, and the board finds that the granting of this variance meets the 5-part test set forth in town code and New York State town law. Therefore, this board grants relief from town code section 330-77D, placement of accessory buildings, structures, and uses in residence districts for a proposed rear yard coverage of 24% where a maximum of 20% is permitted, and section 330-11 residence districts table of use regulations for an accessory side yard setback of 28.4 feet where 30 feet is required for a proposed 55 by 110 sunken tennis court as shown on the survey prepared by Gary Bentz, LC of Survey and Land Planning, last revised on 1/13/2022 and incorporated herein. These variances are conditioned on the maintenance of any existing tree line and the installation and maintenance of a new tree line of reasonably similar in nature trees and at the same spacing as the existing tree line immediately to the east of the existing tree line and any fencing located on the shared property line with 45 Summerfield Lane. Grant of the foregoing relief is subject to the conditions of such other permits as the applicant has heretofore acquired or may otherwise be necessary for final approval of the proposed tennis court to be built at the subject property.
Second.
Ms. Kern,
Aye.
Mr. Daly,
Aye.
Mr. Tuthill,
Aye.
Mr. Macedonia,
Same.
chair votes aye. Any more decisions? If not, do we have a motion to close?
Motion.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.